Zoe Kravitz makes a dark and disturbing and thrilling directorial debut with Blink Twice.
Yes, we're not going to spoil anything here for you. There's a lot to talk about. We're going to try and do it in the vaguest possible terms. I guess the main overall idea here is that if Emerald Fennell made Glass Onion, it might look something like Blink Twice, I think.
It would be better than that, I think.
Yeah, no. What do you mean? This is better than Emerald Fennell's Glass Onion?
Yes.
Okay.
But that's another story for another day.
Yes. So yes, this is Zoe Kravitz's directorial debut. She also co-wrote the script, and it's amazing. Like, it's incredible how much confidence there is here, how much verve to the filmmaking, what a bold story she's telling. So kudos, Zoe Kravitz, keep making movies.
It's not what I thought it was going to be.
What do you mean?
The legendary parties of Slater King. Blink Twice if I'm in danger.
Channing Tatum stars as tech billionaire Slater King. And I just learned recently that he and Zoe Kravitz are together. I did not know that.
Yeah, apparently they got together during the making of this movie, which I find a little off-putting, but that's another story again for another day.
Yeah. I guess she thanked him profusely at the premiere, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize this. So they are together. But yes, he stars in a very different role as this tech billionaire who at the film's start is atoning for some unnamed transgression. We don't know exactly what happened, but he has had to then create a foundation and sort of reset his life and reset his public persona in the face of something that he has been accused of doing. So Naomi Ackie and Alia Shawkat are best friends, and they live together and they work together as like catering waiters. And at this gala that is Slater King's annual big fundraising gala, they kind of sneak in slinky gowns and sort of find themselves caught in his spell and get whisked away on his private jet to his private island where he and all of his friends go all the time to get away from it all. This incredible supporting cast, Adria Arjona and Christian Slater and Simon Rex and Haley Joel Osment and Geena Davis in a key role, and they go there and everything is beautiful, and there are clothes waiting for them, and it's nonstop champagne and just lounging by the pool and hanging out at night, long elaborate dinners. It just seems idyllic. It seems too good to be true, but it's clear eventually that something else is going on here, and that's kind of where I want to stop. It's just that it is not what you think it is going to be. It takes a turn, and what Zoe Kravitz does as far as like the pacing of it and as far as the character development and the structure of the script and even just the camera work does so much to create this mood. And like there's a bit of camera movement she does early on when things are great. It's a long tracking shot where everyone's dancing out in the lawn by the pool under the stars, and like she follows one character and she follows another character and then another character, and it's all one long tracking shot, and you get swept up in the spell of it, of how magical all this is. And then she revisits that same structure later on under a totally different circumstance. Yeah. And it is chilling. And so I think just the thought that went into that aspect of the storytelling I found really impressive and really engrossing. The very end, I am not sure it sticks the landing. I have some really conflicted feelings about the absolute last thing that we see. And I want to think about that some more, but I think it's really effective until then in terms of mood and performance. And like Adria Arjona is great here. Channing Tatum is unlike you've ever seen him before. Like he's leaner, and that makes him scary. Unlike being like muscular, like handsome Magic Mike. There's something really different just in the way he carries himself that is kind of terrifying. So that was really good.
Yeah, I didn't know exactly where this movie was going. I loved getting sort of just kind of drawn into it, and you're right, the pacing, and this is the kind of movie where it would have been very easy to like make things very creepy from the get-go, and we'd be getting ahead of Naomi Ackie's character and waiting for her to catch up. But like, no, we're also sort of swept up into it the way that she is. And we're learning things as she does. I was holding my breath at times. It gets so suspenseful. And the movie also, I think, really succeeds at what it's going for metaphorically, in the same way that like Get Out is making points about, you know, racism and white supremacy in very metaphorical ways. In this movie, we reach a point where like Naomi Ackie and Adria Arjona know that something is wrong, but they have to keep smiling and like having a good time. And it's all about like, you know, and it calls up so much of this idea of like people who are in abusive relationships and they know they're in abusive relationships, but the only way to survive is to like pretend that everything is fine. It's all good here. I'm having a great time. And it's terrifying and meaningful. And so I loved that this movie was operating on those simultaneous levels. I love the craft here in terms of the score and the cinematography and the editing to sort of like create this world that is at first very sort of welcoming and aspirational, and then the sort of foreboding elements come out of it. And I think the very ending is I think it's a fun gambit. Like it is a little out there, but I think it is appropriate, you know.
Is it contradictory to the point she's trying to make?
I think it depends on what you think the point she's trying to make is. Okay. I guess.
All right, we can't talk about it. But anyway, I feel very in the moment. I was like, aha! But the more I think about it, I'm like, So anyway, yeah, and part of it too, it's so tricky here, is that she has to make you feel like it's all kind of suspended in time. Like one day blends into one night, into one day, and a couple different times someone asks, "What day is it?" And nobody knows. And so she has to make a film in which time feels suspended, but for us, it is not like this amorphous kind of haze. There still has to be a structure and a suspense for us as viewers, while also conveying their sense of disorientation. I've
always thought of the ideal vacation as the one where at some point you like lose track of what day it is. But this movie has ruined that for me. Because now the idea of not knowing what day it is now has a creepy undertone to it that it didn't before.
Right. And then within that structure, there's also a repetition of certain beats, certain images, like the same kind of meal over and over again. They microdose, which they depict as a means of like, you know, expanding your mind with intention.
Yeah.
And maybe there's more to it than that.
One of the things that's great about the Channing Tatum character is that, you know, he is the kind of person who has learned enough therapy speak to sound like a really, you know, open-minded, enlightened bro. But it's like, you know, we've seen this in public now, what that looks like, where people are still doing the same stuff they always did, but they're couching it in terms that sound very, you know, very, you know, tree huggy or whatever.
Yeah, there's like a self-righteousness about it that is false. Yeah. Simon Rex is really good in this too. Everyone's really good in it. You know?
Yeah. Christian Slater, Kyle MacLachlan pops up for a couple scenes, like, you know, and we talk about this whenever an actor makes their directorial debut, they've got the Rolodex ready, but she has found really cool roles for these folks to play. And like, I'm really loving Haley Joel Osment character actor. Like, I am very excited to see where he's going with this, because like, when he popped up in this, it reminded me of the role that he plays in the otherwise mostly forgettable Entourage movie. And it's like, I love that he is just embracing playing these characters that are weirdly complicated or kind of dorky or whatever. And it's like, yeah, please do it.
Yeah. You guys should know though, and there is a title card at the beginning before the film even begins that lets you know as an audience member, like, there are depictions of abuse here.
Yeah.
It is disturbing, is potentially triggering. So just FYI, just know going into this that it looks like a sunny, sexy romp, and it gets very disturbing eventually. So just FYI, know that going in. So then I think I would say, I always ask you what your number is going to be. I think I'll go first.
Please.
I would say an 8. This is really good.
Yeah, I'm at 8.6. It was the kind of movie where I was really enjoying it, and I thought, oh God, I was already predicting the ways they were going to mess it up, and they didn't. Yeah. And I think that Zoë Kravitz kind of crosses the finish line in a way that is, you know, I mean, yes, we can talk about the ending, but I think for the most part, in terms of like maintaining the mood, building the tension, what the revelations are and how they are presented and what they then lead to in other ways, all handled really brilliantly. Want to see what else she does, but I think this is a shockingly good movie for late August.
Yeah, totally. So Blink Twice is in theaters. Will you see it? Let us know.